in this particular lecture actually we are going to discuss about the qualitative analysis by diffraction. So, that means if we are having any samples, maybe we do not know the crystal structure or maybe the elemental informations of that particular materials. So, how we are going to know that which type of material it is or maybe the what is the chemical formula of that particular materials. So, qualitative analysis, what does it mean actually? So, qualitative analysis is the identifications of the constituents, as I told already, that means elements or maybe the functional groups present in a substance, that means phase identifications. A given substance always produce a characteristic diffraction pattern, whether that substance is present in the pure state or as one of the constituent of a mixture of substances. Say suppose copper, if it is in the pure form of copper or maybe some cuprous oxide Cu2O or maybe something other else. The unique characteristic diffraction patterns may be used as a fingerprint for its identification. So, simple, if it will give you the whole informations. The particular advantage of diffraction analysis is that it discloses the presence of a substance as that substance actually exists in the sample and not in terms of its constituents chemical elements. Say suppose for example, if a sample contains the compounds AX, BY, the diffraction methods will identify the presence of AX, BY as such and not A and B. So, how actually it is doing, means what is the basic principles? The X-ray diffraction pattern is a fingerprint that let us figure out what is in our sample. For example, say suppose quartz, cristobalite and glass are all different phases of the silicon dioxide. They are chemically identical, but the atoms are arranged differently. As shown, the X-ray diffraction pattern is distinct for each different phase. So, for glass there is no sharp peaks, it is very much broadened. For cristobalite it is showing some sharp peaks at around 22 degree, and for quartz it is showing some sharp peak around maybe 27 degree. Amorphous materials like glass do not produce the sharp diffraction peaks. Each phase produces a unique diffraction pattern. From this image we are seeing. The diffraction pattern of a mixture is a simple sum of the diffraction pattern of each individual phase. So, suppose I am having one materials in which these three phases are present. So, I will get the image like this. So, this is for the quartz, you can see a small peaks are coming like this one, and then it is having some broad peak which is for the glass, and then it is showing the cristobalite peak at this particular point. So, that will be a combinations of all the peaks. Basic procedure generally which we are following is that a collection of diffraction patterns for a great many known substance is already made. The diffraction pattern of unknown is recorded using X-ray diffraction technique. The recorded diffraction pattern is located in the file of known patterns by matching the pattern of the unknown exactly. So, why we needs the collection of diffraction patterns? The collection of known patterns has to be fairly large if it is to be at all useful. A system is needed for classifying the known patterns so that the one which matches the unknown can be located quickly. Such a system was devised by Hanawalt in 1936. Actually, simple, we are having one database of all the known samples. So, maximum times we are matching our samples with that database, whether this is the same sample or not, and if something new, then only we are trying to find out what are the new samples. So, if I go through the history, first in the year of 1936, the task of building up a collection of known pattern was initiated by Hanawalt, Rinn and Frebel at the Dow Chemical Company. In 1941, several technical societies including the American Society for Testing and Materials, that is ASTM, began to cooperate in acquiring and disseminating diffraction data. In the year from 1941 to 1969, the ASTM published and sold an increasing volume of data in the form of 3 into 5 inch file cards, one card for each pattern. So, they are having a number of cards. In number of cards, each and every sample's diffraction patterns has been given with full informations. From 1969 to 1978, this activity has been carried out by Joint Committee on Powder Diffraction Standards, which is called the JCPDS. So, that is why sometimes we are calling it as a JCPDS file, which in 1978 was renamed International Center for Diffraction Data, or maybe the ICDD. In 1995, the powder diffraction file PDF contained nearly 62,000 diffraction patterns in 45 sets, with a new set of about 2,000 patterns being added each year, because from a material scientist point of view, in our lab every day all the scientists or maybe the students, they are preparing the new materials. So, the new crystal structures are forming. So, automatically that database is going to be upgraded every year. Now, first let us know what is Hanawald method. So, a powder pattern is characterized by a set of line positions and a set of relative line intensities, that is I by I1, scaled relative to I1, the peak in the pattern with maximum intensity. So, Hanawald decided to characterize each substance by D value of its 3 strongest lines, namely D1, D2 and D3. So, I is the biggest intensity and I1, I2, I3 are the individual intensity of different peaks. So, values of D1, D2 and D3 together with relative intensities are usually sufficient to characterize the pattern of an unknown and enable the corresponding pattern in the file to be located. What is the arrangement of PDF cards in ASTM file? In each set of the ASTM file, the cards were arranged in groups characterized by a certain range of D1 spacings and identified by a set of number and a card number within that set. Within each group, for example, the group covering D1 values from 5.99 to 5.50, which I am going to show you the example in the next slide, the cards were arranged in decreasing order of D2 values. When several substances in the same group had identical D2 values, the order of decreasing D3 values was followed. So, D1 is ranging from 5.99 to 5.50. Within that D1 range, what is the D2 value? Just we are arranging in the decreasing order. Then when D2 has completed, then D3 also in the decreasing order. So, the groups themselves were arranged in decreasing order of their D1 ranges. So, how to do that one? So, Hanawald index, it is a list of the 3 strongest D spacings for each material content in the database, D1, D2, D3, and there are so on like D4, D5, D6, but D1, D2, D3 we are assuming these are the strongest one. Extended Hanawald index, first 3 strongest D spacings followed by the next 5 strongest D spacing. So, this is the extended one. The 3 numbers, the Hanawald index, are usually sufficient in practice to narrow down the search to one or a few suspects, which could then be examined in greater details. So, simple you can see that D2 value, just we are going into the decreasing order, which is ranging from 5.99 to 5.50 D1 value. So, like this way, then after that we will go for the D3, and here we will get the file number over there. So, now if we see the ICDD diffraction data card, it looks like this, which one means this one is give you the file number, 2 this is the D1, D2 and D3, 3 strongest lines over there, 3 the lowest angle lines over there is the 3, 4 chemical formula and the name of the substance, in this case it is sodium chloride chemical formula, and then star has been given, star means it is high quality, if it has been written I, that means intensity is fairly reliable, if C will be written over there, then C is the calculated pattern, and O means it is low reliability. Next 5 is the data on diffraction method used. So, 5 here what is the data, what is the copper K alpha value, and what is the data on the diffraction method, means input parameters. 6 is the crystallographic data over there. So, it will give you the alpha, beta, gamma, all the values over there. 7 optical and other data are given over there. 8 is the data on specimen. So, this is the data on specimen and 9 will be the diffraction pattern over there, that HKL value it will give you. So, now procedure for identifying the unknown samples. So, the diffraction pattern of the unknown sample is recorded and the experimental values of D and I by I1 are tabulated. After that, the following procedure is followed. First, locate the proper D1 group in the numerical search manual, read down the second column of D values to find the closest match to D2. In comparing the experimental and tabulated D values, always allow for the possibility that either set of values may differ by plus minus 0.01 angstrom. After the closest match has been found for D1, D2 and D3, compare their relative intensities with the tabulated values. When good agreement has been found for the lines listed in the search manual, locate the proper PDF card and compare the D and I by I1 values of all the observed lines with those tabulated. When full agreement is obtained, identification is complete. So, identification of a single phase samples. So, it is an example. So, first consider the given pattern obtained with copper K alpha radiations and a Hall Davis Carrier camera. The experimental values of D1, D2 and D3 are 2.82, 1.99 and 1.63. Because in this case the I by I1 is the maximum, so that is why it is D1, and then the second one is 60, so that is why 1.99 is D2, and next one is the 30, that is 1.63 is, and rest of the D4, D5, D6 like that. So, by examining the numerical search manual, strongest line is found to within the 2.84 to 2.80 angstrom group of D1 values. Inspection of the listed D2 values in this group discloses 27 substances having D2 is equal to 1.99 angstrom, but only 5 of these have D1 is equal to 2.82 angstrom, shown on the next slide. So, in this particular case you can find that 2.82 and D2 is matching 1.99 over there. So, now 5 is the data of 5 substances with D2 is equal to 1.99 angstrom and D1 is equal to 2.82 angstrom is shown below in the form given in the manual, and of these 5 only NaCl has D3. So, first we have matched D1, then we are matching the D2 and then we are matching the D3. Note that the intensities listed for 3 strongest lines of this substance agree fairly well with the observed intensity. So, do the data for the other 5 lines listed in the manual. So, when D1, D3, D1, D2, D3 matching has been completed, then we will go for the rest one. So, from this we can get that it is C. C means already I told you, that is calculated patterns. If it is some kind of mark asterisk, so it is high quality. Then X is the intensity, say suppose 100%, 30%, 40%, 60% like that. Then Cp, C is the cubic, F is the face centered and P is the primitive. Here 2 means number of atoms in the unit cell, and this is the PDF card number, that is 5-628. So, now turning to PDF card 5-628, comparison of complete pattern given there is done with the observed one. In general the agreement is good, but there are some discrepancies and this must be resolved before the identification as sodium chloride is accepted. What are the discrepancies? A very weak line with D is equal to 2.18 angstrom not listed on the file card is observed. Calculations of this one. Calculation shows that this line is a 220 reflection of copper K beta radiations not removed by the filter itself. The 331 line, which is nothing but D is equal to 1.294 angstrom. So, listed on the file card is not observed over there. So, in this particular case, however, it is intensity is expected to be very low. Two high angle lines, that is D is equal to 0.79 and 0.78 angstrom are observed, but are not listed on the PDF card. Often the file cards data do not extend to highest accessible values. However, these lines can be indexed as 711-551 and 640 lines, which are the next expected lines after 444 in the FCC sequence. After the fifth observed lines, observed intensities on the Hall-Davis-Skerrer pattern are all higher than those on the file pattern, which was obtained with diffractometer. These differences are due to absorption effects over there. Now, identification of phases in mixtures. Say suppose I am having a combinations of materials. So, how to do that? First, case 1, assuming the sample as single phase materials. So, first consider the pattern obtained with copper K alpha radiations and a diffractometer for which D1 is equal to 2.09 here, then will be D2 2.47 and D3 will be 1.80 angstrom. Examination of the numerical index in the D1 group 2.09 to 2.05 angstrom reveals several substances having D2 value near 2.47 angstrom, but in no case do the 3 strongest lines taken together agree with those of the unknown. This impasse suggests that the unknown is actually a mixture of phases. Case 2, assuming the sample as mixture of 2 phases. So, in this case what we are going to do? Suppose the strongest line D is equal to 2.09 and the second strongest line D is equal to 2.47 and are formed by 2 different phases, and that the third strongest line D is equal to 1.80 is due to say the first phase. In other words, assume that D1 is equal to 2.09 angstrom, D2 is equal to 1.80 angstrom for one phase. A search of the same group of D1 values, but now in the vicinity of D2 1.80 angstrom discloses agreement between the 3 strongest lines of the pattern of copper PDF card 4-0836 and 3 lines in the pattern of our unknown. So, in this case actually what happened, 2 peaks are matching properly, these 2 peaks, and this is not matching. So, first we have identified the copper and then again we will go for the unknown peak, and then through that unknown peak also we will get the D1, D2, D3 value, and then on that peak again I am going to match with the JCPDS file or maybe the PDF card. Turning to PDF card 4-0836, all lines of the copper pattern described in table 2 agree with the highlighted value in table 1, the pattern of the unknown itself. So, these 2 are matching properly and rest of the lines we are going to match, means these 2 are matching, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, these 7 peaks are not matching, and this rest of the peaks also are matching with this table 2. One phase of the mixture is copper, providing that the remainder of the lines can be assigned to some other substance. How? Normalization of remaining lines is done by multiplying them by a normalizing factor of 1.39, so that the intensity of the strongest line is increased to 100. So, you can see that observed we have got the 72 intensity, now we are taking 72 as a 100 and then we are doing the normalizing one. So, in this particular case 2.47 will become the D1 value, and then the next one will become 2.13 and 1.50. Now, we are going to match with some other card. So, this is matching with Cu2O. Searching the index and PDF in the usual way reveals that these remaining lines agree with the pattern of cuprous oxide, which is nothing but the Cu2O. Result, the unknown is found to be a mixture of copper and the cuprous oxide. Next is the plot replot method used for the overlapped diffraction lines. Sometimes it may happen for different materials the line has been overlapped each other, then how to distinguish them? Make a stick plot of I by I1 versus D for the unknown mixture. Select likely possibilities 3 strongest lines and make stick plots for these knowns based on PDF cards. Graphically subtract the relative intensities of the first identified phase of the mixture and replot the residual after renormalizing to the strongest peak. Try to find another match to what remains, subtract these, replot and try to match. So, simple, whatever the plot we are getting, then after that matching samples plot we are removing, then next matching samples plot we are removing, like that we have to make it 0, that there should not be any peak. Keep going until nothing remains. All lines of significant intensity must be identified for the analysis to be considered complete. On completions, every line in the pattern must be assigned to some material. All major lines of each component identified, that is of each card, must be present. All reminders from subtractions must be 0 or higher, since negative intensities do not exist. In practice, negative reminders I by I1 less than 0.05 are acceptable. Confirming your analysis, what to do? First, prepare mixtures of the identified components until the original diffraction pattern is duplicated. This step adds considerable reliability to the identifications. Then second, compare the absolute intensities of the peaks in the unknown and duplicating mixtures to see if there is any non-crystalline materials in the unknown. So, examples: graphical illustrations of the plot replot method. Consider the peaks with intensities greater than or equal to 20%. So, in this particular case, diffraction pattern of multiphase materials where it is mixing, experimental peak intensities is like that. So, peaks of first phase identified zinc oxide or maybe the zinc site, card number 361451. So, I am subtracting the peak of zinc oxide and then again I am replotting it. Then peaks of the second phase identified, that is zirconia oxide ZrO2 and zirconia, card 371485. So, I am eliminating the second one. Then peaks of the third phase identified, that is sodium chloride or and halide, card number 5-628. So, after that it will become 0. So, first how to do it? Experimental peak intensities, then experimental zinc sites and then experimental zinc site and zirconia. So, like this way we will characterize or maybe we will get the informations of about the all the materials. Numerical illustrations of the plot replot method. Consider the average D and I by I1 for the mixture obtained from scans of multiphase samples in a powder holder. Peaks with intensities less than 5% are represented by 0 and the intensities and D spacings are the average from 3 samples repackings. The 10 most intense peaks are highlighted in the table itself. So, we will get the number total 43 lines over there. So, the most intense peaks has been given like this way. So, it is 100 I percentage. So, that means the D1, D2, D3 up to D10, and first we have to match D1 to D10 and then after that the rest of the peaks we are going to match. Consider the 10 most intense peaks of the mixture listed in the table. Check for triplets of peaks like D1, D2, D3 and search for Hannawald index. Lines 10, 6 and 8 match zinc site, ZNO, card 36-1451, lines 2.48x, 2.866 and 2.604. So, 60%, 40% like that. Comparison of complete pattern gives match of lines 27, 33, 37 and 20 with 1.625, 32, 1.477, 29, 1.378, 22, 1.911, 23 lines of PDF card number is 36-1451. Subtract the zinc site peaks intensities from the observed data and report the intensities remaining in the experimental pattern in 4th column. So, simple, whatever the peaks has been confirmed we have to delete it and then we have to go for the further one. Normalizing of the remaining lines is done by multiplying the remainder shown in column 4 by 2.5. So, simple, the column 4 we are multiplying with the 2.5 which yields the renormalized set of lines shown in the column 5. So, lines 4 and 5 match the index entry for badellite zirconia oxide card 37-1484 and the remaining lines match halide sodium chloride card 5-628. Now, this one is actually the computer search model. So, generally the how the computer is doing. Identification of components in a mix is often done using computerized matching algorithms. As the number of phases in the unknown increases beyond 2, manual searching becomes very difficult and time consuming. computer searching is then more efficient. The result depend on the data quality, the database quality and the criteria used in the search. Matches are usually ranked using a figure of merit which is defined as Fn is equal to 1 by bar delta 2 theta into n by n pos. So, n is equal to number of observed back reflections, n pos number of independent diffraction lines possible up to the nth observed lines, and bar del 2 theta average absolute discrepancy between calculated and observed 2 theta values. So, here is the vector. So, vector bar del 2 theta is equal to average absolute discrepancy between calculated and observed 2 theta values. The units of Fn are reciprocal degrees, and the higher the accuracy or the more complete the pattern, the larger is Fn. Fn is equal to 100 means that the average 2 theta difference was less than is equal to 0.01 degree. Search match programs, like generally we are doing it by the EVA software or maybe the Topaz software. Now, there is certain practical difficulties. What are those? Errors affecting the observed positions and the intensities of the diffraction lines have been discussed in chapter precise parameter measurements. So, already we have discussed abnormal intensities due to preferred orientation or graininess, sample characteristics, densely packed, randomly oriented grains or maybe the crystallites, grain size less than 10 microns and homogeneous. If the crystallites in a powder sample have plate or needle like shapes, it can be very difficult to get them to adopt the random orientations. That is why we always try to get the orientations of the flat surface. Preferred orientations is particularly common in surface deposits on metals such as oxide or maybe the sulphide layers. If the deposit is very thin, its removal may not yield enough material for examination. If large grains are present in a particulate sample, some diffraction lines will have abnormally large intensities, but the question is why? With a few large crystals present in an otherwise suitable sample, there is a chance that one of the large crystals is correctly oriented for HKL diffraction. In this case, the intensity of that particular HKL will be abnormally high. In this case, you can see that certainly it became 100, otherwise it is 775 or maybe 736, but certainly it became the 100 intensity. So, example, intensity of the 400 line is abnormally high in one case, in this particular case. Therefore, it is always desirable to run at least 3 repackings of a sample of an unknown. There are certain other difficulties also. The Hannawald method fails completely when the unknown is a substance not listed in the PDF. Yes, we do not have any archive. The unknown is a mixture and the component to be identified is not present in sufficient quantity to yield a good diffraction pattern. And the final verifications, whenever any doubt exists in the investigator's mind as to the validity of a particular identifications, it can be verified by preparing their own standard pattern. Examples, the unknown has been tentatively identified as substance X. The pattern of pure X should be prepared under exactly the same experimental conditions used for the pattern of the unknown. Comparison of these two patterns will furnish positive proof or disproof of identity. So, now we have come to the conclusions, or maybe we have come to the last part of this particular lecture. So, we have to summarize the whole lecture. Qualitative analysis by X-ray diffraction is based on the following principles. A given substance always produce a characteristic diffraction pattern. We know whether that a substance is present in the pure state or as one constituent of a mixture of substances. It discloses the presence of a substance as that substance actually exists in the sample and not in terms of its constituent chemical elements. It can distinguish between different allotropic modifications of the same substance. Identification of phases in a given sample can be done using 3 different methods. One is called the Hannawald method, then next one is called the plot replot algorithm, and the third one is called the computer search method. In practice, various difficulties arises and these are usually due either to errors in the diffraction pattern of the unknown or to errors in the PDF. Thank you.